After years and years of waiting, they finally made a game based around that lady in leather from Smash. All jokes aside, as a fan of not just PlatinumGames, but character action games as a whole, I've been anticipating Bayonetta 3 ever since that original reveal trailer about 5 years ago. Jeez the fucking wheeze. Bayo 3 was probably the game I was looking forward to the most this year, and it did not disappoint. It's better than the first game, and it's probably one of my favorite games from Platinum that I've played myself. To be fair, haven't played a lot of them, but that doesn't make it any less true. The story alone was interesting and was able to keep me constantly engaged. It's all about this new witch in training, Viola, who's seeking assistance from alternate universe Bayonettas in order to stop the singularity from destroying the multiverse. The first two games dealt with lots of time travel, and even Bayonetta meeting a different version of herself, so 3 introducing the multiverse feels like a natural escalation, and Platinum did a fantastic job of exploring that concept here. There's lots of different locations, time periods, and Bayonettas to go along with them. One gripe that people might have that I really didn't end up minding was that it's pretty easy to guess where the game is going. Again, this didn't really bother me, because unless it's a mystery, I don't really need a movie, game, book, or whatever the fuck to feel like it needs plot twists just to keep me on the edge of my seat. What matters is that it kept me invested and wanting to see more. And besides one long stretch where the game kinda dragged on, it definitely succeeded. And the last few missions make for a satisfying climax. I didn't realize how that would sound until it came out of my mouth, and now I just said that. Oh my fucking gosh. Although the ending is definitely going to be controversial, to say the least. Now, I'll get into more detail later on during the spoiler section. Basically, it's a fine ending, just one that felt a bit sudden, and I wish there was more context given to the setup beforehand. Although, all in all, it doesn't detract from the story or the game at all. Bayonetta is still a fucking amazing character who's so fun to follow. Luca, Rodon, and Enzo all make appearances without taking over the story, and at least to me, Viola was a really well done character who breathed a ton of life into this game. The gameplay this time is just fucking hell. It feels like every few years we get a character action game that just changes the fucking scope. The last one I can think of really is Devil May Cry 5, and damn, I don't think this game is better than that. I think they're pretty equal, but fuck, they did an amazing job. I will say that it brings lots of memories of Devil May Cry 4, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on your opinion of that game. The biggest similarity being the juxtaposition between a very simple character in Viola and one with a very, very elaborate control scheme with lots of different options, like Bayonetta. Viola's control scheme is very bare bones, down to only having one sword and ranged attack. However, it manages to still be fast-paced and chaotic while keeping those restrictions intact. Her biggest ability for the majority of the game is that she can throw her sword and summon Cheshire, her demon cat, as long as you hold ZL. Who, might I add, you cannot control, save for a small section in Cairo, which was so fucking cute. I like that they added that because it shows that Viola herself is in training, while Bayonetta just has a shit ton of demons that she can control in this game. Speaking of which, her control scheme reminds me a fuck ton of Dante from DMC5. While I haven't played too much of Bayonetta 2, I feel very, very confident saying that this is the best the character has ever controlled. There's 5 different weapons which also have their own ranged attacks as well as modes that you can transform into. You can transform into a spider, the fucking choo-choo train. Oh god, I love this game so much. The original Bayonetta was often unforgiving. It wasn't unfair, but it was pretty difficult, which is to be expected from Hideki Kamiya games by this point. 3 is a lot more manageable. From what I understood, you no longer are penalized for using items. When you die, you immediately just get right back into the action, and there's just a general feeling of the game giving you lots of headroom in order to experiment and explore new combos with both characters. Pretty much, if you've ever held a controller in your life, then normal should be the difficulty you play on for a first run, even if character action games are kind of intimidating to you. The one big trade-off I have to mention is that it was very easy to completely forget about the upgrade system in this game. It took up until chapter 12 until I remembered that I can gain new moves for my weapons. Just gonna mention, probably shouldn't be that way. I guess it's just that the new moves you could unlock didn't seem all that appealing to me, and I also just didn't need them. There's some unlockable costumes, which is pretty par for the course in this series. The difference is that they're based on other Bayonettas you meet throughout the game. However, the big addition in my eyes is that you can change the color of your outfit, hair, and glasses. It's nothing too fancy or intricate, but it's a really nice addition that I appreciated. Jean's stealth missions initially seemed like they'd be a bit obnoxious and needlessly break up a fast-paced game, but surprisingly they were lots of fun, and I actually missed them when they were all said and done. Each one was fun in their own way, and they also built on top of each other until the final mission where you escape the facility on a bike. It also helped that they really didn't last very long whatsoever. The worlds this time around are super open and allow for lots of exploration, and to accommodate for it, there's a new waypoint system. It was very nice to explore places like China, Japan, and Paris. Sometimes level can go on for a bit too long. Maybe it's because of how big they are, but we often spend upwards of an hour in each respective location, spread over 2 or 3 missions. But the one that suffers the most is Cairo, which goes on for way too long. We ended up spending 4 missions there, each of which clock in at least 20 minutes. And to say for Viola's, that entire subplot felt like it went on for way too long. Naofumi Harada's soundtrack is so fucking good. The words haven't even been invented to describe this shit. It has a lot of the classic Bayonetta sounding music, which is the only way I can really describe it, but it also brings in a punk rock vibe, as well as some light, smooth jazz that's reminiscent of Killer is Dead. I haven't even gotten to the fucking vocal tracks. Oh, good lord. Chescale and Michaela Delgado's backs must be fucking shattered into a million pieces from carrying this fucking game. Viola and Bayonetta's respective battle themes, Jean's opening theme, the ending song, oh my fucking gosh! Basically, shit's really good. Artistically, this game looks actually amazing. Like, I get that I keep using that word, but you just don't know, okay? You haven't played it. The style is just oozing from this game. The point being is that the game itself artistically and conceptually looks amazing. The problem is the hardware. Before this game even released, this was one of the biggest complaints, notably by Digital Foundry. It's just disappointing to see such a beautiful game that will probably always be stuck on inferior hardware solely because it's an exclusive. It's not the worst. There's heavy aliasing, which you can obviously see. The frame rate wasn't too all over the place and was never unplayable. Most of the cutscenes are just MP4 files, which you can kind of tell, but isn't that hard to ignore. There's a decent amount of pop-in, and I had 2 crashes in my playthrough, which there's no excuse for. Those are never fun at all. But there was this weird glitch where my menu buttons wouldn't work while I played as Viola. I even switched controllers. It just didn't work until I finished the level. So odd. That stuff aside, the performance isn't disastrous or anything. Some of those issues, like the crashes, can definitely be patched out in the foreseeable future. Skip to this time if you don't want to hear Bayonetta 3 ending spoilers. There's always something in my fucking throat, man. Okay, so welcome back to my video game book club, where it's like a book club but for game spoilers. Something that everybody who's played the game knows is that Viola is very much a make it or break it character. Obviously, my comparison to DMC 4 and 5 goes beyond basic story structure, since she's basically a carbon copy of Nero from the single sword to her lineage. She also takes over as the main character of the series, which was definitely surprising. Since the game's release, the character's been getting a decent amount of pushback, which is honestly mostly due to fans who are adverse to change. Not that there isn't any valid criticism or that there's anything I wouldn't like changed in a sequel, but this is definitely a situation akin to Metal Gear Solid 2. If you didn't play the game and are just sitting in here to be a part of the conversation, by the end of the game, Bayonetta and Luca die and go to hell, while Viola becomes a full witch and takes on the family name Bayonetta. There is so much to unpack there. Firstly, this Bayonetta is actually Cereza from the first game, which yeah, in retrospect, it's kind of obvious. I assumed it was during the gameplay reveal trailer solely based off of the hair design, but I'm glad that the game outright confirmed it during the scene where the 3 Bayonetta shows up, which just goes to show how much Platinum put into this game. Speaking of which, the 3 Bayonettas reveal and the boss fight that ensues is probably one of the best moments in the entire game. Of course, I had it spoiled for me because YouTubers value clickbait over good content, but it was still beyond satisfying to see. And it confirms that while these games are definitely connected, it's also kind of an anthology, which is really unique. Even though he technically kind of took a back seat, I love the time that Luca had on screen alongside Bayo and Viola. While I still think that the story needed a lot more context, the scenes we did get of Viola almost calling Bayonetta mom, or Luca saying that he loves the both of them, it broke my fucking heart, man. I'm sure the DMC comparisons get exhausting, but that's just how my brain works, so you're just gonna have to bear with me. The ending is a big paradigm shift that reminds me a lot of the ending of DMC 4, alongside the disappearance of the main characters going to hell like in DMC 5. Needless to say, it was a lot for the end of a third installment, and makes you ask what Platinum's gonna do next. I'm personally all for seeing Viola take the reins, or at least share the spotlight with her mother in a sequel. It seems that the two of them are just kinda chilling in hell. They're splishing, they're splashing, they're freaking around. It seems like the door is wide open enough for Platinum to do pretty much anything they want to in a fourth installment. God, this must be what it felt like back in 2008. Here's crossing my fingers hoping the sequel won't take another 5 years. Bayonetta 3 is one of those games where, when you're trying to find a good stopping point to call it a night, there's always something new and fun around the corner. Whether it be a set piece, a chase scene, a new Bayonetta to play as, the game always has stuff up its sleeve. There's a section where the demon you're controlling fights with music, so Bayonetta 3 briefly becomes a rhythm game, and the dead are raising their glow sticks from hell like it's an idol concert? Coolest shit I've ever fucking seen. The story is great, the worlds are fun to explore, Viola is a great new addition to the series, and the gameplay is the best it's ever been. Not to mention that naive angel mode is fucking hilarious. Instead of pulling out her heart, she pulls out a tomato. Even if it's not appropriate to play in front of your parents, like that is worth a second playthrough on its own. Sometimes it doesn't work exactly how it wants, and the game is definitely held back by the hardware. But at the end of the day, it's still a Switch system seller, one of Platinum's best games, and a contender for one of my favorite character action games hands down. It's worth the $60 asking price and makes me want to play some of Platinum's other games that I hadn't gotten around to playing, like Astral Chain or Anarchy Reigns. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this review of Bayonetta 3. I had a fucking blast playing this game. Like, subscribe, and all that jazz. I'll catch you guys next time. Later, kids. Have a good night.
You want to touch me? Come on.